I'm Chris Farrell, and this is On Watch. Welcome to On Watch, everybody, the Judicial Watch podcast, where we go behind the headlines to cover news and information that the old legacy media really does not want you to know about. We try to recover some lost history, and we try to explain the inexplicable. Today, we're joined by Austrian Member of Parliament from the Freedom Party, Dr. Susanne Fürst. Susanne, welcome to On Watch.
Hello, such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Susanne, you and I met years ago, and we've continued a friendship and had contact at places like the Conservative Political Action Conference in Budapest, Hungary.
Yes.
And in that context, we've talked a lot about European politics and what's going on in Europe, in particular, of course, in Austria. You're a lawyer by training and by professional career, and then you became a member of parliament as part of the Freedom Party, and you're a senior leader within the Freedom Party itself. For our viewers and listeners who may not be very familiar with or sort of acquainted with Austria and the Freedom Party, can you tell us a little bit about the current state of affairs politically in Austria and with your party, the Freedom Party?
Yes, sure. It's a pleasure to do that. And I just brought something for you. It's our party program of the Freedom Party of Austria. And maybe this is familiar with you, for you, Austria first. We always put our country and our people first. And we use this phrase for a decade already. So we didn't copy it from your now President Donald Trump. But I think that's a bridge from Austria to the USA. So we put our country, the interests of our people on first place. And yes, you have to know, the Freedom Party, we had elections last year in September. Federal elections here in Austria, and the Freedom Party, we won. And it was the first time, and that shocked the whole establishment of media and the other parties and the European Union. Because in Austria, we always had two big parties, the Social Democrats and the People's Party. These are the so-called Conservative Party. And then we have small parties like the Liberals and the Green parties. But people, I think, like in the USA, people are so fed up being lied to all the time, see deteriorating their lives. Yeah, you know, life is getting worse every day and every month, and so they elected a change, and they want to have the Freedom Party in government and in power, but it didn't come out in that way.
So I think yes. the big story is this party that had always been sort of third or fourth.
Yes.
Because of public frustration, you gain an enormous amount of support, and you actually win a plurality, not a majority, unfortunately, but you have the largest representation across the entire country. But there's a great irony. There's a very difficult lesson in this big victory that you had, and explain for our viewers how you can win as much as you did, but there's still a tension within the government.
Yes, we have different systems. It's not like in the USA. So we have to build a majority in the parliament. The government has to have a majority in parliament. So we need coalitions. And we have 5 parties, and we won with 28. It may not sound so much for you in the USA, but it was a really huge win. And Social Democrats and the People's Party, they came out with 21 and 25, 26. So we have to build coalitions to come over 50% majority. And we had negotiations with the People's Party. They came second after the elections. But, you know, these negotiations, they failed. And there were some crucial points. I mean, our promises in the election campaign were really to protect our country from further mass migration. And we don't want to have further asylum seekers, and we have to send some back to their countries when they came illegal or when they are committing crimes here. So
right.
That's a big issue in whole Europe and in Austria.
It is a dominant, it's really a dominant issue.
Yes,
Immigration is huge.
It is, because it destroys so much. It destroys our way of life, our culture, our identity. We cannot finance it anymore, and security is declining. So we promised this as a big issue, and we are committed to it. We told the People's Party we are just going in government if we can really do that and if we can keep our promise. So the People's Party, they promised a strict path of asylum policy as well. They made a copy and paste of our policy, but after the elections, they didn't really keep to this promise. Yeah,
and we see that with politicians often. They say one thing, and then they do something very different.
During the election campaigns, because you just can win elections if you promise a strong asylum cause, because people want this for sure.
Yep. Yep.
But most of the politicians, they don't remember their promises after the elections. But that's not so with our party. And, you know, and they were not honest. They didn't want it to do, and they couldn't stand the pressure from Brussels, because Brussels was not really happy about having a government in Austria who will oppose their
the pressure from Brussels and the influence that the European Union and sort of the colossus that the European Union, the European Commission, the European Parliament, we'll just call it Brussels, the pressure that they can exert internationally on your domestic, it's really a sovereignty issue. It's Austria's election, it's Austria's political question, but this outside group exerts enormous pressure on the country of Austria, correct?
Yes, it is an enormous pressure, we think so, and the People's Party, they couldn't stand that, you know. So they are fulfilling all the wishes from Brussels, and so we can't cooperate with them, because we promised our voters as well that we stand against the wishes of centralization of Brussels. They want to take away the national sovereignty of the member states step by step, but we don't want it. And that's not the point the European Union was created for, you know, it was you know that as well, it's for a good cooperation in economic things, yeah? But Brussels uses the crisis as well and to take national sovereignty again, and to suppress member states who oppose this path. And so there was no way that we could cooperate here with the People's Party, because they want us to be pro-European. They call it that way. I mean, we are truly pro-European for sure, but that's not in the interest of the European people, the path what European Union is going now. So we have to oppose that and go back to the roots of the European Union.
And your first allegiance, and no one should be surprised by this, your first allegiance should be to Austria and the Austrian people.
Yes.
How could betraying your own people and lying to your own people, how could that ever be right? How could that ever be justifiable? Yeah. Not just philosophically, but even under under your constitution, under your law. How could you ever be in a position where you would betray your oath, betray your commitment to your people,
Yes.
and somehow make Brussels happy, and that's okay, no problem? It's absurd.
It is completely absurd. It's dishonest, and we don't want to do the policy in that way. So we stick to our promises, and that's why the negotiations failed. And so we have to take another round. But I think people understand it. We are rising in the polls, and I think the next election will be ours. And then the government, and then we will govern, and we will stick to our promises and really realize this.
Yeah, I think there's a lesson from President Trump's experience where people, they saw through the manipulation, they saw through the lies, they were able to detect, they could understand the difference between what was being said and what was being done. And it actually motivated people. It got them more interested, more involved. And that's how, even with attempts to ruin him, to destroy him, the people saw what was going on. It actually energized them, and he won by a larger margin. And I think the same is true in your circumstance. The Austrian people, their frustration level gets to here. They can't take it anymore. They see that they've been manipulated, and it actually drives more voters to the Freedom Party and to support what you've been talking about. You're going to make Austria great again.
Yeah, for sure, we will do that, for sure. And we're very happy about the outcoming of the election of the USA, because the MAGA, they will give us a push. We have to do it. We have to do it ourselves. We have to win our elections. We have to get even stronger. Right. But it is a push from over there. From the USA, and that's really it pushes out all the patriotic forces and patriotic parties, and we always prioritize our people, our interests. We want to keep peace, good cooperation, but it's the task of national politicians to put the interests of their people on the first place.
So you just mentioned peace in your last statement, and that's a topic I want to touch on, because Austria is uniquely situated because it's a member of the European Union, but it is not a member of NATO. And I think a lot of people would just lump you in and say, oh, sure, Austria is part of NATO, but you're not. And I think very importantly, in your constitution, Austria has declared itself, and it's in your fundamental law, your basic law, that you're a neutral country. And that sometimes adds another layer of pressure, I think, when it comes to situations like Ukraine and other. It also directs where your money's going, frankly, where your taxpayers, your citizens' hard-earned money is sent. Talk a little bit about the unique status of Austria as a neutral country and the importance of neutrality in your constitution.
Yeah, you mentioned it. It's really a unique position, and it would be a great chance if government would be able and capable of an active neutrality policy. It's a unique position we shared with just a few countries in Europe, especially together with our neighbor Switzerland. And we are lying in the middle of Europe, maybe in the middle and the heart of the world. So I think it's really a good position. The other neighbors are NATO members, but we got our neutrality after the Second World War in 1955, so it's about 70 years old now. And it was the promise of neutrality for Austria was our path to freedom. and independency.
Right.
You know, we were occupied after the Second World War from 1945 to 55 by Soviet Union, USSR, United Kingdom and France, and the promise of neutrality gave us freedom. And we have it as in our state treaty, and in October 1955, it was a rule in the parliament, and now it's part of our constitution. And it became part of our identity. And the Austrian people, they understand the chances of neutrality very well. They stand behind it. So over 80%, they are really stand behind it. And that's a beautiful thing, and they are really right. So next point is that neutrality, to keep neutral positions is not difficult in times of peace.
Right, right.
But
it's never a question when the world is peaceful.
Yeah, it's never a question there. It's easy
Right.
to declare, we are neutral, we are neutral. Yeah, then war came back to Europe in February, March 2022. And now that would be really the chance of neutrality to be, to offer Austria and Vienna for diplomatic discussions, for conferences, and to offer here a quiet, neutral place. But then the government, you have to restrict yourself in rhetorics, and our government never understood that you can't declare absolute solidarity with one side of the war parties and also be neutral.
Right. It's either
That's
one way or the other.
That's what they are doing for over 3 years. You have one or another. So it's ridiculous. Yeah. And because they say they wanted to abolish our neutrality in the beginning, but as people in Austria said, no, we want to stay out of this war. It's not our war. We are a small country. We can't solve this conflict. We have to stay out, but we are helping. We are taking refugees. Yeah, we are offering here a neutral place. But the government was not able here once again to stand the pressure of European Union and to join these absolute solidarity with the Ukraine. But I mean, I have to mention Ukraine is in a very difficult position, and it's not about that we don't worry about Ukraine, but it's not the European Union should concentrate on giving possibilities to resolve this conflict.
Right, right. I think that it's important to note
resolutions and diplomatic actions. But they are completely doing the wrong path from the first day on. They declared it to our war, and the policy of European Union failed completely. They told us it's our war. No, it's not. It's a war between Russia and the Ukraine, and it has its historic reasons.
Right, exactly right.
And Brussels told us the sanctions against Russia will solve this conflict and Russia will lose. So it will destroy them economically. Obviously, it didn't really work.
Right.
And third, they tell us for over 3 years that we are sending money and Brussels is sending weapons and everything to put the Ukraine in a position that they can negotiate, that they have a strong position in negotiations with Russia for 3 years. And it never happened. I think their situation has gotten worse and worse. But the difference between March, April 2022 and now is there are hundreds of thousands dead soldiers and dead people. So that's crazy. And that was a complete failure of this policy. And we always opposed it.
It's a unique position to be in for Austria because of that pressure from the European Union.
Yes.
You know, and I'm, excuse me, I'm aware of European Union money that was earmarked or designated as security and peacekeeping money within the European Union, even being diverted or rerouted. And so instances where you thought your money was going for sort of a peacekeeping fund or for a mutual security fund, that money was taken and used for other purposes. So even indirectly, you're contributing in a way to one side of the war while claiming neutrality. And I think it's important also to note or really emphasize what you said. You're empathetic. You understand the problem that Ukraine has, and you've offered humanitarian assistance and refugee assistance. You've offered Vienna as a place to hold peace negotiations. And of course, Vienna is famous for hosting all sorts of international conferences and meetings. So it isn't as though you're indifferent or you don't care, you do, but you care about your constitution and your commitment to neutrality first. And I think it's there's an X post that you put up in the last day or so. My colleagues are going to show that on the screen here. And that's a Freedom Party a post that you reposted from on X from Freedom Party talking about it's time for neutrality. Can you explain that picture to us? Who's in that picture and what inspired that post?
Yeah, that post is from Monday in our national parliament, and sitting beside me is our party leader, Herbert Kickl, and behind us members of our party. And and there was a discussion in the parliament because on this day, the Ukrainian President Zelensky visited Austria, and it was an invitation from our government, and he came here. And you know, I already said we know that he is in a difficult position, and Ukraine is in a difficult position, but we opposed this visit because we thought it doesn't help in this situation. It doesn't help the Ukraine, it doesn't help the soldiers, it doesn't help Ukrainian people, because all we have to do for an Austrian government, I mean, we are a small country, we can't solve this conflict, but what we could do is just to support everything what could be a solution for this conflict. So to support negotiation, to support Donald Trump's attempts to end this war, to reach at least a ceasefire. But it seems so that European politicians even do not want this. They fuel the conflict. And we thought it's not a good time to do this invitation because we are still in the hot war. They are not. I mean, we could offer Vienna for negotiations, for a place for conferences, but for the visit of one party of the war, it's useless and it's not good, and it injures our neutrality. It doesn't help.
From your position
we were opposing that. Yeah. That's why we oppose that, and that's why we put here this written thing that we upheld for peace and neutrality. And we are not naive. We know that we can't make peace, but we should support all attempts to reach peace, or at least a ceasefire.
And you have to remain faithful to your basic law, your constitution. And if the Constitution says you're neutral, it's not something that you can negotiate or just talk away with nice words and then ignore it.
Yeah, that's true. It's dishonest. It's against our Constitution. It's dishonest, Austrian people do not want this, and it's useless. So I think that's not really a reasonable politics.
I want to take, or at least ask you a question about your view as you look around Europe from Vienna. Vienna's truly in the very heart geographically of Europe. When you look around at other countries surrounding you and various sort of lawfare and political gamesmanship going on, our Vice President Vance in February went to Munich to the security conference, and he had a few critical things to say about Europe and about our friends and our colleagues there, whether they're connected to us via the European Union and trade or whether they're connected via NATO. And the vice president had some tough things to say, and he was bitterly criticized by some European leaders, saying that what he was saying was, a betrayal.
Yes.
What's your interpretation of Vice President Vance's his critique, his comments from the Munich Security Conference?
Yes, thank you for this question. If you meet your vice president, please tell him from me I was very happy about his speech.
We'll convey those sentiments.
I was so surprised about his speech. It was really very courageous, and I was so surprised that he's so well informed about the political situation in the European Union or in Europe. And he addressed a lot of really important issues, and he was completely right. It was a magnificent speech, I think. And a central point was the restriction of free speech. He said free speech is declining in Europe, and he is right. I mean, especially in United Kingdom or in Germany. I mean, I don't know if you know this case about an older man who posted just that in Germany that a member of the government is a silly guy. So, I mean, no really tough thing, yeah, that he's an idiot, yeah. But I mean, everyone tells that every day someone.
Sure.
So a member of the government is an idiot. You know what happened to this man? The police was coming to his home. They did a house search. He was prosecuted and he has to pay a fine, and he was sentenced to pay thousands of euros. So it's shameful. So that's the path the European Union is going, and they want us to go this path. Yeah, it's not in Austria as well, but we are following that path as well. So people don't want it anymore. And it was so important that J.D. Vance addressed this issue. And he also talked about mass migration, about this biggest problem for as well USA and Europe, that we have to be careful that it is at a high rate and we have to restrict it. Very true, and it's the main issue of our party as well. And he also mentioned a very important point that democracy is about that the voice of the people count.
Right,
Yeah?
exactly right. Yep.
If you look at this situation in Austria, we have a new government now of 3 parties. I mean, it's completely legal. Yeah, I don't say it's against our constitution, but 3 parties who have lost in the election built the coalition just to keep us out.
Right. A similar situation in Germany as well.
Really, yeah. Completely similar situation to Germany, because they want the true conservative parties out of government. And I think that's what he was addressing, and that was so important, that democracy just can't really work if the voices of the people are heard and their dreams and their ideas are taken seriously. That's democracy.
I think you hit the nail. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think Vice President Vance hit the nail on the head, because
he did. He really did. And I think it was he told the politicians there it was an offer. It was a friendly offer and meant as an awakening for them as well. I'm not sure if they took it this way, but I thought really it was an offer, and he reminded European policy about the shared values of the USA and Europe. So it was really a beautiful speech. Enjoyed it very much, and I read it.
The line that I enjoyed the most was that the United States cannot protect you from your population. Right? We can't protect you from the people you supposedly represent when you try to suppress them at every turn. Yeah.
You can't. Just a certain time, but it doesn't work.
Dr. Susanne Fürst, I want to give you the last word. I want you to tell people how to follow your work and the work of the Freedom Party and to learn more about Austria. So I'm going to give you the last moment or two here to let people know about all that you're doing.
Thank you. I want to tell you, people in the USA, you are happy to have a new administration. I think Donald Trump, he really works hard to restore our values and to restore your country. And that's what the Freedom Party, and that's what I want to do in Europe, in Austria as well. I honestly am fighting for our freedom, for our constitution, for keeping peace in Europe, because our lifestyle and our values we share in the USA and in Europe. It's worth it to fight for this. It's not a time to lean back. So please follow us and please pray for us.
We will. And thank you so much for taking time to join us and giving us the view from Vienna and your citizens and the folks that you represent in Austria. Thank you so much for joining us.
I thank you so much for having me, Chris. All the luck for you.
Thank you. I'm Chris Farrell, on watch.